Okay, a sequence is a function with whole number inputs and whole numbers only. Let's look at an example. So let's look at real number inputs. That's what you're used to. So negative 3 squared we know is 9, so we got 4 there. The square takes the negative off, and root 2 squared is 2, 1, 0, 1, 2, 4, 9. So, all right. Now because we're accepting real number inputs, this negative root 2, this positive root 2, those are acceptable. We can throw those in there. All right, so with whole number inputs, all that's acceptable to put in this column are whole numbers. Here we can put real numbers, right? We can put pi in here, because pi is a real number. Where does that go to? Pi squared, whatever that is. Okay, putting pi in here, that doesn't make sense, because we only accept whole numbers as inputs. 0, 1, 2, 3. 0. Okay. Now let's think, what does this graph look like? Well, we all know what this graph looks like, right? Good old x squared, our old friend, y equals x squared. Okay. Now because we can put all real numbers in, everything on this x-axis is acceptable to put into this graph. So we get a continuous line as our graph. But with only whole number inputs, The only things we can input are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, on. Keep going like that. So the graph of y equals x squared looks like all the dots of all the whole numbers, of all the whole number inputs on this graph here. So, let's see. Okay. Now, because these graphs look so much different, right? They're just a bunch of dots. There are a bunch of dots because there's only whole numbers as inputs. We use a different notation. Use a different notation than f of x equals x squared, because when we think of x, we think of a real number input. So because we want to think of sequences as different, as having whole number inputs only, we use a different notation. We use n. So f of n equals n squared. Really the same thing in terms of a function. All that matters is what you throw into it. But because over here we only have a graph of dots, and we only allow whole numbers as inputs, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, on and on and on like that, we use n to indicate whole number. And we use x to represent real number. And the notation goes even further. Instead of using f of n, when we talk about sequences, instead of saying f of n, we say an. Okay, so f of x equals x squared with whole number inputs is an equals n squared. When we see f of x equals x squared, we think real number inputs, and our good old friend x squared. When we see an equals n squared, we think, aha, only dots, only those little dots. So then we get something like so.